Well, the autumn has well and truly left us behind for another year, and today I've come to, as you can see, a pine plantation. The reason I've come here mainly is because there's still some colour to a large extent, and as we know, most pines are coniferous, hold on to the colour all year round, with the exception of larch, which drops its needles, and there are some larch in amongst these trees. But real temperature drop in the last few days, and I decided this morning that once I left the van I'd have a good old walk to get some blood pumping, to get warm. As you can see, I've got gloves, hat, waterproofs to take the wind off the legs. Really has gone cold, and it's that damp feeling that comes with it that really just makes you feel like you don't want to go out. But the thing is, if you do go out, you find stuff. So here I am today. It's actually a public place again this week that I've come to, just because it's accessible and I know it. As per usual, I have no idea what I'm going to find, because we've got a really grey, overcast day. It probably is going to be the smaller stuff again, but I'm always open to opportunities and whatever might present itself. I've got all the equipment as per usual in the bag, from wide angle right through to, well, my longest focal length, which is 160mm. So time to have a wander and see what nature provides us with. It's funny, I would say that 95% of my photography is reactive photography, and a very small proportion of it is actually planned. And I was just, I'd walked down, I'd done my little intro, and I was aware that I didn't say my usual intro, which is good morning everybody and welcome back to another film. So I was checking the recording on my voice recorder, and it just goes to show that when you just stand still and look, you see things. And it doesn't matter whether it's, up in the canopy or whether it's down on the floor, anywhere. If you see it and it appeals to you, speaks to you, then react and take an image of it. And what happened was I was looking down at the voice recorder, and haircat mosses down on the ground here, and this area is mainly spruce trees, but it would appear that one tree here is actually a Scots pine, and there's much bigger needles in this area. They've fallen, and they're going through a series of decomposing, and fresh ones falling on top. But during that time, the haircat mosses have grown up through it, and there's a lovely contrast of the mosses and the straight needles. And the mosses obviously are green, the needles are brown, so you've got contrasting colour and contrasting shapes, and I couldn't not notice it. It just jumped out at me. So this is going to be my first image, completely unexpected. Didn't think I'd get one this early in the film. So I'll just get the composition on the back of the camera with the little video camera there, and I'll just talk you through it. It's quite simple, but I'll do that now. So here is the composition that I've finally settled on. It's not perfect. In an ideal world, I would have liked the haircat mosses to be more evenly distributed throughout the composition. There are some restrictions in the group that I saw this image on is quite a small cluster, so there's not a lot of it down on the ground to choose from. You're very, very limited as where you can get your composition. So what I've gone for is the point at which I can get the most even distribution of colour in comparison with the pine needles. You can see there's a bit of a gap just at the top here, and a little bit of a gap down at the bottom. I don't mind it too much. It doesn't overly worry me. I think it's just going to be a really nice, interesting abstract picture with lots and lots of detail, and just nice, easy on the eye type of image. This is a focus stack of 4 images. You've seen me do this before in an earlier video, and I'll put a link above. What I basically do is I choose the area of the composition which is closest to the camera, and I start the stack there, and then I work through the composition until I get to the very, very lowest limit of the scene, and that's where I end the stack. Like I say, you'll see a good example of how I've done this on an earlier video. The tones and shapes are absolutely beautiful on this. You've got these lovely greens that contrast nicely with those golden coppery needles, and also if you look at the haircat mosses, you've got contrast in shapes between those as well and the needles. I think this image really gels together nicely, and for good reason it caught my eye. So settings wise, it's at f16, it's a 6-second exposure and 100 ISO, so I'll put that on now. Right, I'm quickly nipping back to where the last shot was taken, which is here, just here. There it is. And my tripod, if you can just about make it out, it's just over there. So I've walked about 20 yards. Look at the colours through those silhouetted pines. There's a line of bracken running centrally through the middle there. You can just about see it there. I did line it up, but it's not striking enough, but it's the sort of thing that catches my eye when I'm walking about. But this time of year, we're heading into deep winter in the UK, if you can call it deep winter. Certainly this part of the country doesn't get a huge amount of snow, but it's certainly cold. And I wanted to try and photograph today, as part of the film, things that are dying, decaying, things that capture the mood of winter as the forest shuts down and waits for spring to return. And these beech leaves here, beech notoriously hang on to their leaves on the branches of the trees right throughout the winter period, and here in the UK we use them for hedges because they provide a screening. And I've spent quite a while actually fiddling around off the tripod and on the tripod, trying different compositions to try and capture a nice intimate close-up of the leaves, and it's been really quite difficult. And I've taken probably, I don't know, 40-50 images of various compositions, and I finally got one that I'm happy with. And not only one that I'm happy with, one that I could actually find it again and put the tripod into place. Often when you're doing this sort of technique where you've seen me before, I hold the camera up to the eye and I just move around and then snap an image as soon as it comes into focus. Well, those sort of images are really difficult to find. Once you've put the camera down and you've tried to go back with the tripod, it's just disappeared, because the depth of field is so shallow that it's just hard to see where you actually was for that when you took that last shot. So this one here, I've managed to get my eye into exactly where it is, and I've manoeuvred the tripod into place, and I've got what I think is a lovely image of the beech leaves that really captures that lockdown winter feel. I'll show you on the back of the camera now, and I'll talk you through why I like it. So I'm going to keep this really brief, because the minute the wind comes you're not going to be able to see this composition, so I'll talk you through that first. Group of 3 leaves, odd numbers I always find are better than even numbers. I've got the diagonal stem coming through the intersecting the frame there, which is a nice plus point. It's nice to have the stems on a diagonal. What I really love about it is that the way the leaves echo one another, so it's like almost like an hourglass there where the gap is, and this leaf here echoes that leaf. And then at the back you've got where the lobes of this foreground leaf are, the background leaf just sits nicely into that gap, and then the edge of that background leaf mimics the foreground leaf lobe there on the left hand side. I've got a nice clean background to make the image really leap off the frame. Now, to get that real wintry, dark, moody, atmospheric look, I'm going to change the white balance of the frame, and I'm also just going to underexpose the whole scene ever so slightly, just to give that locked in, cold winter feel about the image. In terms of ISO. I've actually gone up to 800 ISO. You can see already that the composition is moving out of shot because the wind's blowing ever so slightly. So 800 ISO, I'm on f5.6 and the shutter speed is 200th of a second, so I'll put that on now. So much opportunity, and I've said this before, I think on the last video, about trying not to do too many woodland floor images, but there are so many opportunities on the woodland floor. It's hard to miss them, certainly hard to pass them by and not photograph them. Just here, I think this tree actually above me must be a larch tree, and on the ground beneath it, weirdly, and I can only think it's probably come from this tree just here, which must be a beech. It's cloaked in mosses. There's lots and lots of beech leaves all over the floor, and in amongst the beech leaves you've got, I'll show you these are the larch cones, and you get all the larch needles where the water's run down the banks and collected them in little lines. So you've got those, which are interesting. You've got the beech leaves, which are lovely golden copper tones, and then you've got the detail, like I say, of the larch cones, which tend to sit in really nice places. And this whole area is filled. You see the water's come down, not in a deluge, but it's worked its way down. It's created these patterns where the needles are backed up against the leaves, and then you've got the cones interspersed. I could spend hours here and probably find something, but just the process of looking in amongst this for that perfect composition is one of the real joys and challenges for my photography. But I'm not going to do that today, because I think, you know, the woodland floor thing is becoming a bit too much for probably people to bear. But as I said at the end of the last film, you're really looking towards improving on what you've done previously, and certainly in a non-YouTube capacity I would certainly be looking to find something in amongst this, but I'll press on this morning. So you certainly don't get much opportunity for light at this time of year. I went back to the van, got something to eat since you last saw me, and I've come back out. I've done probably another 10-15 minute walk to get to where I am now, and I've got about half an hour, 40 minutes of good light left. Well, I say good light, it's still very overcast, but I'm wondering whether the clouds just might catch as the sun goes down. So what happened is, as I got here, I spotted that tree, this sapling here, and really caught my attention, and for good reason. You can see how it stands out beautifully against the dark background. It's not an interesting enough shape to warrant an image of its own right, so I tried to do something a little bit creative with it. And what I did first of all, and I'll just try and show you now, I thought that a picture looking up would be good with the leaves, but that didn't really work. But I did notice that the canopy looked quite nice. If I move away from the leaves and show you that, it's a whole different ball game. So I've moved the camera into a position where I've got some nice shaping, and I'll talk you through the composition now. So this is the composition that I ended up with, and I'm really quite happy with the arrangement. Typically, as you can see, what you get with a wide angle lens, in this case a 28mm, around about 24 on a full frame, lots of converging verticals, and the pine trees really emphasise that strongly. Now the key thing is that the centre part of the frame, where all the verticals converge to, has got to have some interest. So I've made sure that these two here, that you can see, these two tops here, are really quite interesting, and all the other tops seem to radiate out from them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hang around and take a few of this under different lighting conditions and different colour temperatures. I may stick around for quite a while to see if the sky actually colours up. The sun is starting to set now, and there is some colour in the clouds above, so I may just try some variations on that, but I will put the best one on now. Would you get a look at those trees? Beautiful contrasting shapes with the pine plantation behind it. I will definitely be back to shoot that in the right conditions. Atmosphere, fog, mist, shafts of light coming through. I can imagine it now. I'm going to call it a day. As you can see, it's very, very dark right now. The sun's set and I'm losing the light, and I've just had that awful realisation that I'm not exactly sure what time they shut the gates on the car park, and I've a bit of a hike back to get to the van. So if you've enjoyed the video, as always, leave some comments below. Let me know what you think of the images. A thumbs up is always good for the video, and if you're not already subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe. If you really want to support the channel, there's the Patreon membership and there's also the YouTube membership available. You can check that in the links below. So yes, I'm going to leave it there, and I will see you all in the next one. So until next time, bye for now.